Welcome to the I'm Stuck video tutorial. This would be a great video to watch if you are having problems, you are not matching check figures. So there's a document that is out in Blackboard. It looks like this. And I can't have this and QuickBooks open at the same time, so I'm just going to go down this list and show you in video format how some of these work. Okay. I'm going to move that off my screen, and I've just opened up a QuickBooks screen. So let's say I have done my homework and I get to some of the check figures and I don't match. So there's some things you can do to get started. Number one, it says pull your profit and loss report. Do you have any negative numbers on there? So you go to Reports, Company and Financials, Profit and Loss Standard, and here's a profit and loss. And this is dated clear out into 2018 because I'm in a sample file. And you would go and you would look down this list to see if there was anything negative. Like right here, this is an expense and it's negative, a delivery fee of $25. There shouldn't be any negative expenses on here. And I would go in and I would find out, okay, why exactly is this negative? And then I can click on each of these transactions right here to figure out, okay, are they right? Are they wrong? Is something going on? So you would go back to here and you would investigate, why are these negatives? There shouldn't be negatives on this report until Chapter 5. At some point you will have a sales discount and a merchandise discount, and those will show up as negative, but up until that point, nothing negative on the profit and loss. So the other very, very common mistake I see is that supplies have been coded to an expense instead of an asset. When we purchase assets or we purchase supplies, it's an asset, not an expense. So for example, if I were to write a check to Office Max for office supplies for $300, this is an office supplies asset, not an expense. If you have posted these to an expenses, it is incorrect and it messes up your journal entries. When you are doing adjusting journal entries, that is when you will expense out how many supplies you have used during the month. Again, supplies purchase is an asset. So for fixed asset, office supplies, do not go down here to office supplies expense. I see this error over and over and over. Number 3, pull your balance sheet. So I'd go here to Reports, down to Company and Financial, and go to Balance Sheet Standard. Checking shouldn't be negative. Savings, accounts receivable, most of these shouldn't be negative. Now, caveat, accumulated depreciation is going to be negative. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to offset. It's a contra asset, so that is okay. But again, these should not be negative. And if it needs to be negative, or if it is negative, you can double click, change the dates. You can do 01, 01, 01 and figure out, why is this negative? Then you can double click. So on these, anytime there's a little magnifying glass, you can double click and figure out the transactions. So as we're moving down our list, number 4, did you make and post your adjusting journal entries correctly? I can't tell you the number of times that I have seen closing journal entries done incorrectly. The entire rest of the file is correct. Adjusting journal entries at the end of the period are incorrect. When we do adjusting journal entries, we almost always debit an expense account. Debit an expense account. I cannot stress that enough. So how do you figure out if you did them right? Well, for one, go to Accountant and make general journal entries. Here, this is an insurance, look, an expense account, prepaid insurance. So we've used up some insurance for $100, so we took it out of our prepaid and put it into our expense, so we debited our expense account. So that is our adjusting journal entry. If you do these backwards, it will show up as a negative number on your income statement. So be sure to, not only do you have to be careful of the amounts, you have to be very, very careful of what accounts you are using. In your textbook, it shows really great examples, and you will do closing entries over and over and over and over. So if that is something you are struggling with, you need to tab those pages in your book and be able to refer back to them every single chapter. QuickBooks does a lot of things really great. Closing the books is not one of them. That is still something that has to be done by hand. Okay, so the other thing, you want to make sure everything dated correctly. So everything, dates are so important in QuickBooks, so important. But let's say, let's say I think I'm off, I think I've got everything entered, but I still cannot figure out where I'm off. Another great place to check would be your journal to see if you've got dates off. So what does that look like? Let me back up just a minute. Let me go to Reports, Accountant and Taxes, down to Journal. This would pull your journal. Now, in the upper left-hand corner, do the drop-down box and change this to All. And then scroll through this and see if there's transactions that are dated incorrectly. Usually they'll be towards the top or towards the bottom, but that may not always be the case. Look and see if your transactions are dated what you think they need to be. If they're not, it will mess up your journal every single time. So if you've gone through all of this process and you're still like, I'm not getting it, I'm still stuck, I still need your help, there are several items that you need to email to me. You must pull a profit and loss, there must be a balance sheet, there must be a journal, and there must be a trial balance. So trial balance is the only other report I haven't showed you. It's Report, Accountant and Taxes, and Trial Balance. This shows my debits and credits. This is what's used to make the financial statements. I must be provided with all three of those reports in order to help you. Let me repeat that. I must be reported, or I must be, excuse me, these reports must be sent to me in order for me to help you. If you haven't sent me one of those, we are kind of on a wild goose chase. But you must have already gone through this list before you email them to me. So for example, if I pull up your profit and loss, and I see a whole bunch of negative numbers on there, I'm going to email you back and say, profit and loss has negative numbers. What's up with that? Question mark, and ship it back to you. I'm more than happy to help, but I also want to empower you to be able to find some of your own errors. Good luck to you, and hope you have a great semester.